our next guest has not only advised on a number of military-themed films, he's also appeared in uniform in a host of others. An author and highly decorated U.S. Marine, Dale Dye, joins us now from Los Angeles. Dale, thanks so much for joining us. As a guy who can glide kind of gracefully from Marines to movie folks, I want to get your thought on the relationship between Hollywood and the Pentagon. Is it too cozy?
Well, it depends, I guess, Mike, on what you mean by cozy. I think that today, given the budget cutbacks that the military is going through and given the last 10 years of constant deployments that they've been going through, there can't be much too cozy a relationship. They just are too busy doing the things that they're originally designed to do.
You know, some people would argue, I guess, on one side of this equation or another, and I want to get your thoughts on it. Some say, hey, this is a propaganda alliance. Others say, hey, no, it's just an entertainment alliance. Which camp would you fall into?
I'd fall into the entertainment alliance, I think. The military, our military today, certainly doesn't need a propaganda organ. I don't know how many polls we've seen regularly that our American military is one of the most respected organizations, one of the most respected fields of endeavor in the nation, certainly higher than our politicians. So I don't think there's any need for them to have a propaganda organ. On the other hand, understandably, they're anxious to make sure that the proper and appropriate foot gets put forward. And there are folks who take a look at that and say, well, you know, that's sanitizing things. All you ever do is show the good side. And that's not really true. I mean, I've been in that relationship, and I can tell you that the military is willing to call it warts and all, as long as the truth is told.
What about those who argue that when the Pentagon approves or disapproves of scripts, contingent on lines, characters, or even storylines being altered, isn't that a form of censorship in a way?
The military wants to ensure that its best foot is put forward. They have every interest in the world in doing that. When Hollywood asks for the Pentagon or the military's help in producing one of their pictures, they're inherently making a deal. They're saying, look, we want what you've got, usually hardware or manpower that can't be obtained anyplace else. And the Pentagon says, well, okay, perhaps we'll do that for you, but we want to make sure that the project for which we're providing that support shows us in a true and proper light. I think they've got every reason to do that. Now, in the process of getting it done, Mike, a script has to be submitted, and the military looks at it and says, well, look, this is just false. Nobody would say this, or this is outrageous behavior, and there are no consequences to that outrageous behavior. So you've got to fix that. And then the producers are faced with one of two choices, either fixing it, which some would say is a form of censorship, or saying, well, thanks, but we believe in the script that we've got, and we won't use your helicopters or your tanks or whatever else that we're asking you for.
But they desperately need the helicopters and the tanks, don't they? For some of these films? I mean,
sometimes.
Yeah.
Today, films, especially with computer-generated imagery, what we call CGI, the demand for the real thing isn't as high as it used to be. We can take computer-generated images and create those things that formerly we could only get by actively borrowing them, so to speak, from the military.
You've been involved. Have you ever seen anybody just throw up their hands and say, well, we're not going to work with you? I mean, this is ridiculous, the demands you're making on us. We're going to go do this on our own.
Yes. I've seen that a number of times.
Really?
Yeah. Because they don't know much about the military, they'll come in hat in hand and say, look, here's a great script. This is going to be a wonderful action-adventure piece. The military takes one look at it and says, well, it has nothing to do with who we really are. It has nothing to do with how we actually handle things. So if you want our help, the following things have to be changed. Sure, I've seen guys throw up their hands and say, well, that can't possibly be an interesting picture. That destroys my artistic vision, and storm out of the area. It happens all the time.
Let me ask you this. Is this a great recruitment tool, some of these films?
I don't think there's any doubt that films today appeal to young men and women perhaps more than they ever did. We're a generation, they are a generation of folks who've grown up looking at television screens, looking at movie screens, and today spend half their time looking at iPads and iPhones and that sort of thing. So it's a very visually oriented generation that we're bringing up. And to the extent that they're constantly bombarded by these images and those images appeal, then yeah, I guess it is a recruiting tool. Is it intentional? Is our American military cooperating in the making of some films with the intent of increasing their recruiting numbers, or are producers making films with the intent of increasing recruiting numbers? Look, I don't think so in either case.
What about a movie like Top Gun, though? You know that Hollywood's cheering because the money's coming in when the people get in the audience, but you know at the Pentagon, they've got to be cheering as well.
Oh, absolutely. Look, but frankly, I think that was inadvertent. When you score one like that, like Top Gun, and it's a classic example. I mean, I've talked to naval aviators for years who've said that they ended up going for their wings of gold because of the imagery that they saw in Top Gun. So I get that. But again, I think it's an afterthought. I don't think our military is going to Hollywood or Hollywood productions in an effort to help its recruiting numbers.
What do they get out of it, the military?
I think they get an understanding on the part of audiences who otherwise wouldn't have any understanding of what the military is, what it really is, what service and sacrifice is about. You know, we live in a generation that for a long time is all about me, me, me. What's in it for me? The military is the antithesis of that. The military is about service and selfless service to our nation. And I think that sometimes we forget that. So the military gets a look at what that's all about by an audience that otherwise wouldn't have any idea.
Okay, I got one final question for you. We're going to be talking to the creator of NCIS. Are those shows that are out there like NCIS, do you watch them yourself, or do you think, hey, that's pretty cool, or what are your thoughts when you watch these films or TV shows where obviously they center around these kind of subject matters?
It is an aspect of our national character, our national fabric that's always fascinated me from when I was just a child. So I'll give anything a shot. Will I follow it religiously? Well, it depends on the quality of the program.
Okay. We'll take that as a yes. Dale Dye, thanks so much for joining us from Los Angeles. Certainly appreciate it.